Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
Good evening and welcome to the Bellows Falls Trustees regular meeting. It's Tuesday, 14th, and it is 6:04 p.m.
Yeah, but I can see you guys fine.
Okay, we can't see you, but okay.
Yep, I can see in here.
All right, good. Thank you very much, Kathleen. We're down here in the Town Hall Lower Theater. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We need to approve the minutes of Tuesday, January 24th, 2023.
Motion to approve the minutes of Tuesday, January 24th, 2023.
And a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any further discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Okay, we're good. Any additions to the agenda for routine administrative matters or pressing matters that will require ratification at a future meeting?
No, no additions, nope.
Okay. Public comment. Is there anyone on Zoom who has public comment? And is there anyone here who has public comment? No? What?
Yeah, it's,
I think it'd be appropriate and request to do a moment of silence for Caesar.
Okay, that'd be fine. Since there are no public comments, so we're good, and we will do that. We'll now have a moment of silence for the passing of Caesar, our previous police dog. Thank you, Senator. Moving on to manager's report.
thank you. So just wanted to let people know that we're going to put some information on the website, but there is a citizens assistant registry for emergencies after we've had some of these extreme weather conditions. People can go on and sign up, and basically it can help assist people when we have extreme conditions, especially if you have somebody who needs specialty medical types of attention or other types of, might have impairments or other issues that might need special help. And basically what will happen with that then is if there's any kind of a evacuation or something that we have to do that requires 911, that information is already available so that it can help us sort of recognize and get to folks that might need attention in some of these extreme conditions we seem to be hitting.
So they're looking for email addresses or phone numbers?
So basically, they want your name, your email, where you live. And it basically goes to the E911 board. So it's not like it's going out to God and country. It's just there for your own protection.
Okay.
So we'll put that up on the website and give people hopefully an opportunity to sign up, and gives them a little peace of mind in some of these extreme weather events that we seem to keep happening. So
I'm assuming it'll be on the front page, so it'll be easy.
yes, keep it up there for a
Catch it.
while.
Okay, great. That's great.
That was it.
Okay, then we move on to the agenda. First thing on it is report from the auditors.
Great. So I've got Ron on.
Mhm.
So Ron, can you hear us?
I hear you fine. Can you hear me, Scott? Scott, I can't hear you now, though.
Copies of your draft, so if you're ready, whenever you're ready, you can.
Okay.
Put your.
Scott, you want me to just go through a similar presentation I did with Rockingham back in December?
Great. That'd be fabulous.
Yeah. So I'm Ron Smith. We live the world of governments, and we do probably over 100 municipalities in Vermont, probably about 160 schools. So we know who you are and what you are, and we've finished the Rockingham and Bellows Falls audit for 6/30/22. You guys have a draft, and I'm going to go through and hit the highlights of it for our audit for 6/30/22. The town had. Did you guys want me to share my screen or just go through, Scott, like I did the last time and hit the 4 or 5 pertinent pages?
Just go ahead and just go through your oral report. We're having some issues with our big TV, so it's going to be hard for them.
Okay. So at June 30, 22, the village had $3 million worth of assets. against $2.3 million worth of like obligations and interfunds, which leaves you with equity of about $701,000, or in your world, carryover balance or fund balance as it's commonly referred to. It grew about $57,000 from the year before. And to put that into Bellows Falls terms, based upon a budget of a little north of $1.6 million, when you take what we like to see as 30, 60, 90 days of that operating budget sitting in that fund balance, to put it in your terms, it's about $130,000 at 30 days, $260,000 at 60 days, and $390,000 at 90 days. You're at about $701,000, which puts you at 150 days of your operating budget, give or take a few days. And certainly that's a great condition, because I can remember the years when Bellows Falls, the village, had no money. So it's kudos. You guys are financially where you want it to be in your general fund. And you've received our highest opinion and unmodified opinion at June 30th, 2022. So financially, I would rate the town probably at somewhere around an A- for a financial grade. In addition to your general fund, you had $443,000 sitting in your ARPA reserve fund, that the town will dedicate and spend on a variety of things that I understand from you all, post July 1. For the other thing that to put into context, your general fund operating budget was $20,000 revenues over than what you estimated, to the good. And your general fund expense budget was a little north. It was about $36,000 under, what you had originally budgeted for. And that's what grew your fund balance from 21 to 22 by about $57,000. The other thing that kind of makes it complex for Bellows Falls is your two utility funds that you operate. You've got a water and sewer fund. Both of those are financially healthy as of June 30, 2022. Water fund kind of really tipping the scales better than the wastewater fund. The water fund had about $7.9 million worth of carryover balance, of which about 5.7 of that was tied up in your fixed assets and infrastructure, and about $2.1 million was unrestricted. And the wastewater fund had about $7.4 million of fund balance, of which about $7.1 million of that was tied up into infrastructure, and about $289,000 was unrestricted. So what's that mean? I think water is a lot healthier than your wastewater, fund for the village. And that's what I would say as far as that goes. But still, two healthy enterprise funds for the village, which I would say in the totality, of your whole operating funds and the two enterprise funds, I'd give you a financial grade of about A-. So those are the talking points. Your budget was within budget. Your revenues came in over what you estimated. Alyssa, as we did with Rockingham, really, we kind of cleaned some more matters up with the books and really kind of, hit some of the accounts that we struggled with from the year before, with some intercompanies, some special revenue funds, and, et cetera. But there's been great progress made down there. And the fact, obviously, that we're having this meeting with Rockingham and Bellows Falls, certainly, I think is a testament to your guys' commitment to keeping the books and delivering us the information the way it needs to be.
I have a question.
Sure.
I see here on page 42, it says the ARPA grant fund is $443,178, but we received over $800,000.
That was June 30th.
As of June 30th. We didn't have the second part.
We did
Sorry.
2 tranches of this, right?
Okay, that was why I questioned the number when I heard it. Thank you. That's it.
In general, thank you for the report. We're very, as a trustee, I'm very pleased to have an auditor speak that way. But 2 just general questions. One, on the where we are with regards to our internal controls. That would be the first issue I'd like you to comment on.
Yeah, I think going back to 6/30/21, it's a tale of two cities. We had a lot of struggles, with more of our controls over the numbers and the path, the numbers and how they got on a piece of paper. And one of the things that we really kind of dug in, and Alyssa really kind of dug in, when she first got there, was the math and how that happened. So the improvement going from 21 to 22, I think, was night and day. So let me positively, say that. Given that, and I think that the complexity, and one of the things that I would certainly, say is still a challenge, and I think it probably, Alyssa can speak to this as well, is that Bellows Falls and Rockingham has pooled cash, and I think that that's a lot of work that it takes from that finance position, to really manage that pooled cash and where it is and who it is, and what it's being used for, and to be able to speak at any given point in time. In 22, you were able to tell us what it was with just dealing with a few issues with reconciling all that. 21, that took 2 weeks to reconcile. So I'm hoping that answers your question as far as where you were and really kind of where you're at right now with your controls and best practices.
Great, thank you. The other question is just a kind of a follow-up. Have you issued your management letter yet?
Yeah, so listen, we'll send that under a separate cover, but there's nothing in there for any material weaknesses or reportable conditions, as our definition would combine more of best practices and kind of like carrying on and making some recommendations about changing, some of the account structure format that you have right there to better accommodate your business, and, probably even simplifying your cash reconciliations of pooled cash. So those will be the two featured headlines. But if you guys looked at last year's management letter, I mean, it was all over the board. And this year we just saw a lot of improvement.
Great, thank you.
Anyone else? Questions? Hold on.
No, he answered the question I had, so I'm good.
Okay, good. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate all the work, and I'm sure it was a lot less troublesome than the previous year.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Ron.
if there's any follow-up questions, Scott or Alyssa, just let me know.
Sure will. Thanks so much.
Everybody take care.
Thank
Thank
you.
you too. Next item on our agenda is the VISTA update and funding requests, and Betsy's here.
Since we got Alyssa here, can we jump in and we've also got the water guys, and then we
Oh,
can
you
jump
wanna-
into
you wanna
budget, and
move
then
it
we'll
around?
jump back into VISTA? Yes. Since we got those folks here,
Okay, so
We
you
can
want
try
to
to get
go
them-
down to number 4.
that would be great.
Yeah.
Just we
Okay,
can start
you
talking
good
about
with
it.
that, Betsy? Hold on. Okay, so budget schedule, review water fund.
So I sent you some updates and some highlights, so just I'll hit a couple of big picture items, and then we've got Travis here, we've also got Brian here, so they can jump in and fill in some gaps if anybody has specific questions about some of the plant operations. We did, as we've talked about, enter into the contract for the Griswold storage tank rehabilitation, as we had discussed. So that contract is the $175,000, and we're working on a schedule for that. At this point, you won't probably see any disruption in any of your pressure or any of the ways that we deliver water. It's more, I think some of our folks will have to keep an eye on a few things as we're doing switchovers between different system related processes. But in terms of the customer experience, you should not notice any changes in your water quality or the water pressure that you're working through that, which is a major project. Another project we've talked about off and on over the last 2 years was the tower on the property that was in the process of being decommissioned. We did speak to the company that was doing that decommissioning and asked them to hold off, which they have done for the last roughly 18 months. And they have gone out back into the market repeatedly looking for co-location and other interested parties. And at this point, nobody has come forward wanting to reuse that facility. So that we'll start the process of decommissioning once the weather improves in the spring. So it's disappointing and, unfortunate that that facility was not in use for very long. But I guess it just shows how quickly some of this technology changes, but we won't, at this point, have a defined use for that or a user who is willing to come along and keep that that piece of the, piece of the network up and running. So
So they'll be decommissioning it, correct?
they will
Have
decommission
to
it.
bring it back to the level of whatever the grade of the property was at the time prior to the term.
Well, we'll leave the road, we'll leave some of the electric infrastructure in place. We wanted to leave the perimeter fence in case we want to do something in that perimeter area, but like the tower itself and some of the buildings and some of that will come down. So, and we'll give you an update as that schedule is clearer as the weather breaks.
Okay.
But we had, done what we could to try to go out and make it viable. It's a little disappointing we couldn't find an end user. Kissel Hill, we're still going through the administrative review process. We do have our permits and all our applications submitted. We're really waiting to hear on what the next steps are in terms of the state funding. We had approved a 5-year potential loan, and then we would repay it out of our fund balances is one option. The state is offering 0% loans, and we're still waiting to see if that's an option that we want to pursue. They have not given us the final guidance on that, as well as what our potential schedule might be. So I'll let the board know as soon as we get that feedback from the, it's the state revolving fund that does all of that work. So at this point, we don't have those specific dates to let you discuss what other options might be available for financing. Certainly, if there's 0% financing, it makes some sense for us maybe to do that. But until we know for sure, we're still moving it forward, and it still is the 50% state grant. So the $1.2 million is roughly $650,000 in grant, and then the balance will be our local responsibility. So with that,
Is that project, is that what shows on our budget as our 2023 budget as $1.2 million grant?
it shows as a full $1.2 million until we get the grant
That's the
paper.
project.
Right, that's the project. So that's the water main replacement, which is the old asbestos pipe. Couple of just highlight items here. We did factor in a 3% rate increase into our revenues, and we'll talk a little bit about revenues as we go forward. We talked about the potential of bringing on another person into the operation. We have some folks, especially our operators, who are retirement eligible in the next budget year.
Mhm.
And while we certainly don't want to lose anybody, certainly understand when somebody has worked their full life and is now eligible for a retirement, it's hard to turn that money down. So we're in the process of planning for that, and we did make some effort to have some overlap there, because there is requirements for certified operators, and there is some issues with timing, so we want to make sure we were ahead of that. We can offset some of that cost with some of our lead line inventory project. There is monies coming to us from the state for that. Originally, we were told that we had a $246,000 grant. We got an updated email today saying the state overpromised and underdelivered, so the project is now $100,000 is a grant. The second 100 and some odd thousand is a 50% grant, 50% local share if we wanted to go forward. Brian's done a lot of the work, quite frankly, and we have pretty good records already in terms of what our lead line service inventory is. So we think that we could probably fund this position and have them fully paid for through the grant and not have to offset that with rate payers as we go forward, and don't need the second tranche of that state money up to the $246,000. So as we get more detail from the state on that, we will let you know.
So that's the grant, it's on, okay, it's here in the grants, and on page 3 under lead line service inventory, right?
Right. So once
But now
you
it's
get,
only 100,000.
well, the full grant is 100. It could be 150,000 if we spent 200, for example. We would be responsible for it.
Right.
So at this point, we don't anticipate us reaching into any of our cash to pay for part of the state money.
The plan would be to do it, though.
We would definitely use the first
Okay.
100,000. You have to do it. It's a federal mandate to have the
Okay.
inventory done.
Okay.
So we'll offset some of our costs using the $100,000 grant money.
All right. You want me to change that
to just 100,000 for the revenue
We
and
will
the
change that.
expenses?
Yeah, we will change that. That was an email
But just 100,000.
this afternoon that came in. Some of the things that you'll notice in some of the budget lines, when we get into more detail, we did talk as a department and there's a need to increase our capital expenditure for things like replacement water meters and start replacing some of our older hydrants. So we decided to do it in phases, so it's not as dramatic of an increase across the board, but we will talk about that when we get to those line items. So you'll see some money programmed for that as well. And at this point, we have not programmed any funds specifically for the pump house project. I'm sure we'll talk about that and how we want to go and deal with that going forward. Wade has sent one update to me, and I'll share it with the board when we get into the ARPA discussions about possibly using some ARPA money to do that project. And at this point, we have not programmed any specific funds in this budget for that project. I just wanted to make the board aware of that.
Is that the building that used to be out on the?
That's the pump house, yeah.
Yes, the one that got
It's
moved
just
off
like
the ice.
Historical now.
It's sitting on a piece, it's sitting on the ground, and because it was moved, the historic people have said it does not have
It's not historic
historical
anymore.
significance because it's been moved. So I know other people think it still has sentimental and other significance to the community, but in terms of getting like grant money to
That's
restore
not
it,
gonna happen,
Yeah.
it's
yeah.
not eligible. So that's a little bit of a background here, I guess now, since, thank you, Alyssa, for making the copies. We can go into the actual line items of
Do you
the,
need it too?
no, I've got it.
Oh, he
I
gave
don't know.
himself page two, see?
I don't know why I didn't copy.
Yeah.
He just didn't give it to you guys.
One, Mr. One Way, yeah, yeah.
But just to see if you guys are paying attention. So. It's like, so I apologize for that.
It's okay.
You want to jump into the budget itself? And if there's any line items the board specifically wants to look at or go over?
Anybody wanna jump
On
in?
on the revenue side, we show the bank interest earned. It's a small item, but are you actually seeing higher
Much higher,
rates?
much higher, yes. We've been getting triple what we were getting.
Well, of course, you're getting like 0.01.
We're barely getting, yeah.
Yeah, we were getting like $300, if that, a month, and now it's thousands and thousands.
Okay, so you are seeing it. What, you know what the rate is that they're crediting?
I don't. I know that obviously it's a lot more, but, and then on the month, like you can tell when we've had a lot of tax payments come in and our bank account is higher,
Yeah.
so then it's like, $8,000, and then at the time when we've sort of gone through that and with lower balances, it's more like 4 or 5. So,
Track the rate if you could, just not be interested in, be here, but
It is a variable rate, so it has increased each time
Right.
the feds decide they want to raise the,
and the interest on audit charges, is, we showed 10,700 in last year. We budgeted for less, and what, are people paying their bills? Is that that's a good thing. I mean, if it's,
I think a lot of that was because of that DHAP program where they were getting,
Oh, yeah,
people were getting, we got a tremendous amount of
that's
money.
true, that will.
And that took away a big chunk of what that was generating. They helped a lot of people. Now, the question will be, are those same folks gonna be able to
we're gonna be
stay?
able to pay it, yeah.
I hope, I mean. so
Yeah, I
we'll
hope
see.
so.
But we definitely budgeted that as a lesser number because of that.
Okay. So then on grant revenues, we'll have to adjust that,
Yes,
246.
Yeah,
yes, that'll go down to 100 now.
and we don't really have the 1.2 million yet, anyway, do we? Do we have it? No?
Have the what, I'm sorry.
From FY '23, the 1.2 million in grant revenue. It's not really here.
It's
No.
only gonna be half of that.
I know,
Right.
yeah, the other half.
Until we get a grant agreement and then we'll
So it's
right.
proposed.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, I asked that question, I think, before, what the town was doing, but we have a 6% increase here on, general government, and I'm assuming going through wages for, as well, which is significant based upon previous years.
Well, we did budget for some of that additional spending for another portion of the year for that additional person that we talked about. So some of that does drive that number higher.
Just talking about the 6%.
6% increase.
What's the 6% there?
We did do some consideration for wages and just a general overall increase because of the current inflationary environment. So we asked around for other communities what other people were doing in their baseline budgets, and we got numbers all over the map from 5% up to some places with 10%.
10, yeah. A lot of them are like 5 to 10, 6 to 10.
Right. So we sort of chose a little bit in the middle, a little conservative.
Union negotiations are ongoing, just so you know that.
Yeah.
Nothing's been settled.
We were a little worried to do too low also, because especially with the town, the budget gets set, and then we have union negotiations, and
Here
then
we
we end
have,
up
well,
tanking
here's the constant problem. We're always months later, and our budget is pushed by what the town decides to do, which is, for us, unfortunate. It makes us whittle more than
Just
before.
one of the items.
Yeah, one of the items.
And I see you've got a EA to the manager. You are gonna do something there?
We're working on, yeah, we've done some interviews. I'm gonna bring a person in to do some follow-up this week to see, and then we might extend an offer going forward.
But this
Would
is
that be
part-time.
a part-time?
It's not a full-time person all the way. It's gonna be right a shared person.
And the resource manager, that is a full-time position.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yep.
Who is that currently?
That's
That's
how.
not
That's Heather. Okay. Other questions, folks?
Well, we gotta take our time.
I know, yes, of course, I'm just saying.
The, it would seem as though one of the trade-offs for being, I mean, I think in terms of the staffing, you described earlier the issue of the fact that our transition planning hasn't been too good. And we have to adapt to that. And I'm all in on that. My understanding is that we're still talking about basically a 3-person staff. That's in terms of looking forward, we're really talking about a 3-person staff.
Right, I think that fourth person is to help us with that inventory, as well as recognizing that over the next 2 years, we're gonna have 2 of our longer term employees
Right.
eligible in the next
I think
18 months for retirement, so.
Here's my theory is that if you did have for a period 4 people, then we certainly wouldn't have to do this overtime on the weekend. You know, we could schedule people so we would avoid overtime.
Oh, well, the testing, I think there's
I don't think there's any
language
way
in
we can
the
schedule that to do
contract
that.
with
I
that.
think the idea of that fourth person besides the inventory, and then also why we bulked up some of our hydrant replacements, as well as our meters, is that extra person could help us catch up on some of the deferred maintenance in the system.
All right, but
So-
why is it that you couldn't eliminate the weekend overtime?
I believe it's in the contract, the testing has to occur on the weekends too.
Right.
Yeah, but if we're negotiating a contract now, we're talking about the potential of a 4th person. It would seem to me we could put that into the contract.
Is the 4th person intended to be permanent? As
No,
in, it'll be the following year and the year after that and forward?
They will become a permanent.
Because you're
employee. That's the idea.
anticipating
Right.
the retirement of at least one person.
right.
So it's really a transition. We've had to look at scheduling. I think it's a little bit of a challenge based on contract language because of the way that the work has been established in the contract, but we can take a look at that. I'm not sure that that's something that we could do, but we'll take a look. I understand what you're saying, I'm just not sure I can do that.
Okay.
Right.
So I guess I'm confused about the numbers in the column not listed. Is that approximately currently what that's the approximation, what we're currently spending,
But
right?
what we will at the end of
2023?
What's this?
Based on where we're at now, which is you have that.
This is what you would estimate we would finish the year at.
Yeah, because there were certain things that I could give a decent estimate because they're generally the same costs
Mhm.
over time.
So that would be 6 of 10.
What?
6,000 of 10,000 is budgeted
Where?
on the overtime.
On the overtime.
You're
Oh.
talking about that row that's way over on the right.
Oh, yeah.
Right, we have overtime of 10,000 for this current
Right.
year. They're proposing 6,800 for next year.
And it's looking like we should come in somewhere around 6
Six.
unless something
Right.
catastrophic happens.
Right.
So you haven't adjusted, this is the budget, right?
This is the 23 actual budget.
Budget, yeah, it's not the,
Right.
not your estimate of what.
No,
No, no.
that's what's over on the other side.
That's
The
our right
outside
column.
column
Oh, okay, all right.
is an approximation of what we would end the year with.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Sort of as an explanation as to why I put it at 68,
Right,
because maybe 10 was a little too high.
yeah.
Okay. I'm interested in the HRA item.
HRA has always been, we've always done it in-house, whereas part of the insurance program, we would pay a certain amount of the employees' deductibles. And it was just that nobody ever budgeted for it. So it always made the health insurance line more than it should have been.
Oh, so it's already, it's
So now
there.
So now I have its own line and we know exactly how much, and that's the budget for that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
It's one of those cleanup items that we worked on with the auditors as well. They were very happy to see that as opposed to the way it was being done.
So what's the 1,000 to 1,500? What's currently being spent?
That's what,
What do you
One,
anticipate the
it's
end of the year?
1,000 for a single person and a 1,500 for a family.
Family, okay.
accrued payroll adjustment. How did that get in there?
That happens at every year end. But you don't really budget for it because you don't know what it's gonna be.
Yeah.
And sometimes it could be next to nothing, and like it was, $600.
So again, this boot thing
Oh.
is because it's the possibility of having 4 people.
Well, we actually currently have 4 people. Right now,
We have 4 people now?
we have 4 people.
Oh, I
But
didn't
then
know.
somebody's gonna retire, so we'll be back to 3 people.
When that happens.
So that's a temporary 1 year, little bit of.
Well, the bump is also based upon
But if we have 4 people now, why are we
price
budgeting
increases.
4 people next year? 2 people are eligible.
Right.
Right.
We have one now.
I have to find out what date somebody is actually retiring so that maybe I can redo that line. 'Cause I didn't-
Okay,
April 24th.
There you go, now you got it. Write that
Oh,
down.
24? Okay. So almost the whole, yeah, so,
all right,
The whole
so
fiscal
all
year,
right,
yeah.
so we've already got the staff in place,
We have
which
somebody
is
who's
good. I
trained,
mean,
and they gotta go through their certifications and then.
So hopefully when all that plays out,
it'll be right.
there'll be kind of a seamless transition,
Correct.
hopefully. You
Right,
know,
yeah.
That's
much better.
that's the idea.
That's the word.
Well, we hate to see you over. We do.
Good news is, we know where he lives.
You've done.
Hit that knock on the door.
They don't have far to go to get me.
No, that's true.
Yeah, that's the good news.
That's a good thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you might be adjusting.
So it will
this
be,
thing,
well, so no, it will be 4 people, the current staffing that we have, almost to the end of FY '24. Because if he's leaving in April, the end of it is in June, so.
Oh, you mean April of
Later.
next year?
No, this year.
the
Next
24
year.
next year.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to kick you out early.
Sorry.
I just said
So
April.
by then,
Right.
the new guy will be up to speed
Right,
and be able
because
to.
it takes some time to get through all your schooling, you get
Yeah,
all your
of course.
Oh, right,
licenses under
yeah.
your belt. I mean,
Yeah, I'm hoping Travis will get his license by the time I leave. It's gonna be close. He's done the pass the test and done the work. Now it's just experience. They want 3 years experience.
Yeah.
To get a license. But I think I got mine at 2.5, and so I think he can get his.
Why did you write add more for union negotiations at the bottom of that column?
Because they're asking for more money. So I don't know if that will change before we talk again. We don't know the outcome of that yet.
Well, if the contract is settled and we know what it is, then we, yeah.
Right,
That's one thing, yeah.
Yeah.
correct. I think the only other thing I would point out to the board is under the equipment line on the second page, if you notice, there's a $10,000 line item for a lawnmower. In the past, we were
Yeah.
able to get prisoners to help cut grass. And somehow that program is no longer in effect.
Also, they're not doing that anymore.
They're not
It's usually
doing it
$100 a
anymore.
day.
Right. So we are now gonna have our guys be responsible for the maintenance. So that's why that number is there.
So the lawnmower would cost $10,000, is that what you're saying?
To do,
An industrial zero turn.
to do the kind of work we have to do, yeah. It's a fairly large amount of grass cutting.
Just at the plant, and we do the 3 tanks.
On the insurance, what do we have left for this year, in terms of premiums?
I think we have one January, so just pay January, so we have one more quarter, okay? We pay it 4 times, and so January is the beginning of their year, but halfway through ours, so. A little more.
What percentage are you anticipating insurance increases? 9%?
Well, you know,
For the
the
following
budget,
fiscal
yeah.
year, right? 'Cause that starts with January though.
It was always 10% on the spreadsheet that I used, and
Yeah.
it seemed like it was too high every year.
And then
I
this
put
year
it,
happens,
I
so.
put it down to 5.
Right, but isn't 7 or 8 more likely the standard? I mean, it was much higher for this last year, but
I don't think for this year coming,
yeah.
because we do half and half, so it's half,
Prior year's premium and half the new number.
Yeah.
so half of what we just got for a premium, and then half of a year of we don't even know what it's gonna be, so I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of a juggling.
Right. I don't see that trending as high as it's been, but.
Right, it's got a break at some point.
Yeah, hopefully.
Now, the page 2 is that first look at page 2.
Mhm.
Now, under audit and financial services, is that just the audit?
Yeah, and that's just their portion of the audit, right? For water.
Right, yeah, so it's split. And this will also include probably, a single audit for the Thistle Hill project. Will probably require a
Raise the
single audit.
threshold for single audit for that.
Cause I'm trying to figure, this is, 20% of our, no, it's,
15, isn't it?
no, we pay 100% of our, so it's,
Right, but it's split in general water.
30, 40, is that the way?
Yeah, I can't remember how we divided that, that was,
I thought it was just a third, really. I mean, I'm not, that doesn't equal, but.
I don't know, somebody
I
said that.
split it 3
It
ways,
used to all just go into general,
yeah.
and then some years ago, a few managers ago, it got split up.
But I put the whole, I think it's $3,000 for a single audit. And I just added that over here because it's for the grant.
For the water.
For the water,
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, when we split with the town, it's 2015 and 15.
Right. But when you're splitting just amongst the
The
village,
three.
I just do it in three.
Okay.
I don't know how to write
That's
that.
fine.
it's just a matter of making sure that the enterprise fund shares some of the costs.
Yes, yeah.
You don't move, buddy.
So on the water meters, I'm just curious more than anything, how much does one of them think cost?
$134 for one.
So we're budgeting twice as many replacements for next year as for this.
Well, what
this
my
point?
plan is, we were supposed to replace these 4 years ago. That was one of the stipulations of the $8 million bond,
All right.
that we start replacing meters. We're going on 40 years old. And usually it's 25, 30. And, so with this lead and copper, I'm gonna have to get into a lot of cellars. And, I think it'd be a good time to start changing some meters, maybe get 100 done this year, another 100 next year.
So saying it that way, that means it's as if you get that done. So budgeting more money for the following year, so more money will be available to do more of them, if you have the ability to.
Yes.
And so,
Well, I mean, we had started and then COVID hit, so we couldn't go into any houses,
right,
and meters were scarce. You couldn't get a meter,
Well,
because the meters we use now have a chip.
oh, right, yeah.
Well,
so just roughly 20,000, how many meters can you get for that?
I was thinking between 100 and 150. That would be a lot. Usually when they did meter changes out, they'd hire a whole company to come in, do the whole village at once.
Yeah.
That's what I'm basing my lead and copper inventory on. I have the sheets back when they did it in 88 and 89. And when they did it, they wrote down every single water line,
Oh, really? Wow.
which is huge. Because of this lead and copper inventory, we have to, every single connection, we have 1,100. We have to answer 12 to 13 questions for each
Oh,
one.
wow.
Latitude, longitude, span number, type of the service, the size, for every connection. And I've gone through all the papers that I found with those meter change outs, and I think we're only gonna end up with one lead line in the whole village.
Really?
I found 8, and I know 6 of them have been replaced because we put new mains there and you can't connect to a lead line without
Right.
notifying the state. But this has to be done, and it's gonna take, we have till October of 24 to do this inventory. But technically, if you did it completely of what they want you to go into every single house, find out when the water line is put in the ground, and all the interior plumbing. Which I don't think is gonna happen. That's gonna be
Interior
right.
plumbing, like beyond the water meter?
Yep.
What's that got to do with us?
Yeah,
How much,
Good question.
that's
how is
private.
that determined?
Right?
How is that determined?
What's that?
How do they know what's?
They,
beyond?
they go into every house and look.
Oh, wow.
Because when we just did a class on this a couple of weeks ago, and there were people there from Burlington with 35,000 connections. And they said, how do we do this? They said, hire people.
The old-fashioned way,
They got
yeah.
over $1 million of the grant money.
Yeah, I've seen where all the plumbing's been replaced except for a trap.
in the
Yeah.
ceiling, which is
Yeah.
clay,
Yeah,
and it's usually connected to a closet, so.
But when I went through, I'm gonna try to get in all the cellars that I know aren't copper lines. And that way we can change out the meter. But we do have a lot of lines that are iron pipe and brass, but the majority are copper.
Okay, so we have a building that needs a new roof.
Yeah, it's a north end storage tank building, the control building, and that's a high figure.
Higher than you think it'll cost, eh?
Yeah. I didn't get called out for estimates, but I didn't get them back yet. Cause it's basically the same size as the Griddle Drive roof, and that came in like at 4,700.
Yeah, I was gonna say that seemed to be the same. I thought it was a little high myself, but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Probably more than 5,000 at that point.
But, you know, with the way things are going up, so you never know.
Yeah.
What seemed reasonable 1 year is not now, so.
so back on that lawnmower, how are you gonna tote it around? You got a trailer
No, we're hoping we'll have enough to get a trailer.
with that?
Yeah. Yeah, a trailer and a new weed whacker. A mower, a trailer, and a weed whacker. They've already been over to Pinnacle, but they don't have any.
Brian and Travis is lawn services. Yeah, really. Side business.
Last year. Yeah, we did it last year. We used, when we had a nice house Savannah, zero turn, that was 28 years old. And it's fine, the spindles are all gone on it, and the blades are real noisy, and it's kind of scary to run it. But we had it, and then when the Department of Corrections started taking over doing our lawn care, we gave it to Robbie, and he used it for, I don't know how many years, and then he just got a new one a couple of years ago. So we took that old one back and used it for the past 2 years, but we're not gonna get another year out of it, right?
Well, it sounds like you're getting money's worth out of it, and then some.
Yeah, we did.
Pushing 30 years old.
Yeah.
On page 3, we doubled the main replacement budget. From 15 to 30.
We've always budgeted 30, so I don't know why.
Oh,
it said 15.
why it says 15 for this year?
And that's only for if there's an emergency,
That's,
like break,
that's pretty
right?
much an emergency.
Yeah.
We have a huge break, or we have a line that, you know, fractures for 100 feet or something.
Yeah. Anyone have any further questions?
The only other question I had, seeing right here is, I had some old notes from a while ago, what's the, wasn't there some issues or something with, correct me if I'm wrong, but the CO2 feeder tank?
We had a problem with the air conditioning unit that cools
Is
it.
that what it was? I remember
Yeah.
one time you mentioned that.
Yeah,
That's all.
and that's all original equipment, but according to the engineers, they'll never fail, so.
Really.
I know Bernie's been wanting to, look into replacing that.
I guess the big question I have is, the financials from today that we've got, or that we got today, I guess they're, the 10th. We show $1.4 million in cash. The budget, I think, you know, to quibble with any of these things is really, not very productive. I think they've done you know, a very decent job in the expenses, but I really question the 3% rate increase for water. We're talking water, not sewer. And I think, you know, let's face it, if the state says to us, on year 650 on the Kissel Hill, we'll let you borrow it interest-free for 40 years. I mean, it's pretty hard to turn that down.
Right.
I mean, you're crazy to turn it down. So, you know, I think, you know, again, we haven't done long-range planning or those types of things, but I just think that the need for a rate increase is, to me, is not there.
I guess,
I don't feel that way with sewer, but I certainly do feel that way with water.
the concern that we have is we are at least, you know, we're right almost at that break-even point with profitability with our current rate schedule. And we are approaching, you know, we're lucky right now that we do have some funds available to do some of these major maintenance upgrades, like these concrete tank replacements and some of these significant investments. But at some point, as Brian has indicated, our 10 and 20-year maintenance plan is going to start to kick in because he has some aspects of his plant that are going to need to be refurbished, if not replaced. And at that point, you'll want that cushion so that we don't have one of these 10 or 12% rate increases that we, or the 20%, or I don't remember what.
No, I follow that, but I'm just
Jolted
saying.
everybody into, you know, into their chaos. So I think that was the idea, what we're trying to avoid.
Now, I know we've got the $175,000 project that we've approved. And we may not be offered the zero interest, or the zero interest rate on the.
Yeah, we just don't have that confirmation from the state.
But I'd like to hold off on a 3% increase at this point. I don't know when, I mean, we're not gonna do it in March anyway. It would be in September, wouldn't it?
Be in the fall.
In the fall.
Be in the fall, so we don't have to make that decision
Just
now.
anyway, yeah.
Right. We have to redo some of the numbers, so we'll look at it. Will impact, I think, our overall. You know, there's a couple of the other changes that we talked about tonight. We'll have to rework some numbers and get back to you to see what that might do. In terms of your operating budget for next year.
We had an agreement with the bond bank for increases for those just for wastewater.
Well, the bond bank has, they have a recommendation. Remember, we went through the RCAP study and they recommended that you did small increases over time as opposed to periods when you didn't have increases and we have not gone through.
Right.
3 billing cycles at least now that we have not increased any of our water sewer rates. So, you know, following their guidance, it would be at least reasonable to have an increase in the rate.
Well, we'll definitely have an increase in the sewer.
Can we look at some of those long-range expenses, the 10 and 20-year things, like, I mean, what are they gonna,
Yeah, where are we now? Yeah.
just similar to how we looked at the fire?
We did, when we looked at, remember when we were looking at prioritization of projects, we had another big one that was in there that I'll bring back to you before we talk about the rate again.
Okay.
And that was some of the plan upgrade work that was part of that. You remember Kissel Hill was the first one, and then I think the next one, I can't recall it. But I think it was part of his, clarifiers, I believe.
The asset management plan.
Right, it was in the asset management plan, and I'm drawing a blank now on what it was. But I think it was, I'll bring it back to you before I sit here and tell you.
Yeah, and I mean, like said, the filters, the
Right.
plan opened in '90. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we did a complete rehab on them in 2009. So we're getting close to maybe, probably not in my tenure, but in the next 5 years, creating them out, doing complete rehab on them again. And then, you know, When you get them drained down, then you can check the bottom, the undercarriage and everything. And see, you know, maybe you can get another 20 years out of these filters.
I'd rather ramp back in 15 years, James, than ramp up percentages with increases.
With that,
The increases, I'd rather, you know, be putting the money away now than 15 years trying to
Catch up.
catch up.
Yeah, I'll pull some of that water.
But,
Yeah,
yeah,
but-
you don't have to do it for some
I
months.
think, you know, I think we're in a situation with sewer where anything we do, we're gonna have to borrow. Okay, so what I'm saying is to me, it's okay to take your foot off the gas on one of these and keep it on the gas for the other for a period of time. We have now for a couple of, I didn't think we missed 3 sewer rate increases. I don't think we have.
I think we increased septic. I don't know if we
Yes,
increased
but
anything
water, I
else.
can't remember last time we actually did. Maybe it was 2 cycles ago,
Right.
so.
And we didn't do it for March, obviously.
Right.
So,
Right.
I mean, we have time to.
But anyway, I think
I mean,
but I do hear what you're saying. I mean,
I think we should do something, you know.
I'll pull up, like I said, I'll pull the asset management plan, because we did look at it previously, and we can update some of the information, maybe the board might feel a little more informed.
the other thing we discovered is all of the government subsidies that we got seem to all go against the water debt.
They had a much better outcome than the sewer did.
Yeah, and the sewer didn't get any of those credits.
yeah, yeah.
And so, that was kind of, I don't know if we,
Not sure why.
somebody realized it.
All of the water debt, they're all interest free, but the sewer, none of them are. It's
Yeah.
Most
not,
of them are actually negative interest.
not anymore.
They converted all the
Not
negative
anymore.
interest back to, right.
But we only
It's
have
zero
like
now.
200, our debt service is like 260,000.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's close to 800 for the sewer.
Mhm.
Right, and most of those are long-term loans, right? They don't, some of them go to 2040, 2048.
You have that in your
2050.
packet, too.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. So you've got your schedule here.
Yeah.
So.
Okay,
Is there anything else want to discuss on the water side?
But we also had your budget status report and just your.
Yeah.
Your, balance sheet for water, since we had everybody here working on numbers, so
This is the department, yeah.
might as well look at those now, and then these guys can all go, jump back.
we haven't got the second half revenue in there yet.
Right. We have another building
Right,
cycle
yeah.
to go out, they'll start reading, and then we'll build.
We paid just about all of our debt service, so we won't have any more of that for the rest of the year. It would appear that we're on budget.
Yeah, I can't,
Doesn't look bad.
right.
No.
I mean, we're monitoring the chemicals because of the pre-treatment that we've been going through with the manganese. And so I think Brian's been on top of that and working with the state and working with our engineers as much as possible. So I think we're in a good point now. The numbers are getting better, and I think we're at a point, Brian, where we're not doing the pre-treatment now.
Maybe as of tomorrow.
Okay, so we're right on the cusp of having. So, and then we'll keep an eye on it, because now we have a way, I think, to sort of catch this before it turns into a longer term problem. So
Yeah, definitely.
the systems he's got set up now will catch it before you start getting phone calls.
Yeah, well, I could tell you yesterday that my entire kitchen smelled like chlorine, but It does happen from time to
I
time.
didn't notice that, yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty significant. It's like, and then I who always drink out of the faucet, wasn't going to drink out of the faucet. I appreciate it not being yellow. And there's a- Any questions on,
I'm good.
financials for us? Looking good.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Go enjoy your Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Whatever's left.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah, whatever left of it.
Tell your
I'm
husband,
gonna
we're
go pick
sorry.
up dinner now.
I was gonna say, tell him we're sorry.
He's watching.
Bye.
She's coming home.
Dinner's probably already ready.
It's probably red.
So now we're gonna go back to,
So now we have Betsy here.
item 2 for VIFTA. Yes,
Thank you,
please.
Betsy, for your patience. So after your last meeting, I know there was some conversation about you wanting some more details, so Betsy dove into some of the numbers, and I think also had some additional information just from some of their, what their impacts are in terms of how events provide traffic to our downtown and sort of increase the visibility of our community. So Betsy put together some additional information, and I guess maybe Betsy, there's anything you want to jump on from there, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know if anyone had questions, but I didn't have Scott print off the actual report. It was 32 pages, but I can email it to you, what I've referred the analysis to.
Okay.
The one exciting thing was that extra report that he sent was the daily visits. And to see the numbers for Rockingham Old Home Days, and just the comparison between, so it would be the last page of my analysis. Comparing 21 to 22 numbers, and then Parade of Lights, we jumped like 200 more people from 21 to 22. And you know, we know like from merchant feedback, Parade of Lights definitely brought more people in before, but I mean, by 6 o'clock, it's a ghost town. Everyone goes home. So for Parade of Lights, Old Home Days, people say that really isn't a great moneymaker for some of the downtown merchants, but then other merchants definitely get that kickback. So that'll be really important and good information for them.
So those numbers went down.
Parade of Lights, people showed up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon so that they would have a place to park, and then they were shopping the whole time. So they spent a couple of hours shopping prior to the Parade of Lights.
Well, that's good. That's good news.
Good to know, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we also have a budget, and I noted that the VIFTA numbers were, the first column is actually FY 23, which is what's now.
So our actual budget, and then, yeah,
And
the
then,
next
then
one
the
was,
next year is FY 24 instead of 23, so that dates, the years on those are move it forward. Right?
I'm sorry, and I really thought I had a grip on
No,
the
that's okay.
financial.
Well, they're on the
Fiscal.
calendar year. I don't know.
You go on a calendar year, you're.
No, we do fiscal year
Fiscal
too.
year.
So it's still the same as ours, okay?
I was thinking ending 23, but this is 23, so
Right.
it's, yeah.
Exactly, ends June 30th. So you still have months left to spend on your actual expenditures before the end of your year, so.
Technically, yeah. And you'll see how much money we actually donate. So if we were, yeah, our budget would be a lot more if we had the capacity and not as many volunteers and donated mileage and donated volunteer hours on my end, so.
So what's the in-kind
I
contribution?
was just gonna ask, yeah.
So that's my volunteer hours. That's mileage for all the workshops and everything. I don't get paid for any of that stuff. And then our office space is donated. And so we figured 1,000 a month, and electric and heat is included as well.
It's free from
So if
today.
we had to pay rent, I don't even know if we'd still be around. So
Right.
we're really lucky that we have all that.
Good, no.
Yeah,
And just kind of, we've leveraged the town and village support all these years with all of these donations and match
Yeah.
in kind.
the issue for me is not the work you do, very positive, and, what appears to be the energy and whatever, so that's all good. It's just that I represent the taxpayers of Bellows Falls, and so that when Rockingham Select Board make a donation, 65% of that donation comes from our taxpayers. Okay, then when you ask Bellows Falls trustees for a donation, 100% of that comes from our taxpayers. So it's easy if you live in Rockingham to say that the trustees ought to match the select board, but the fact of the matter is their residents are paying about 30%, 35% of this, and we're paying about 65%. Well, we're paying more than 65 because we have 100% of the 10,000. So they're contributing a fraction, and I just think that the tit for tat type of proposal here, just doesn't take that into consideration. So that's what I wrestle with, not the need to support the downtown business and all that, because I've always been supportive of that, but that's my issue. I mean, we're not going to make any decisions tonight anyway, but
And possibly if I may,
yeah,
for future, because I'm just looking at past, we've always matched, or we've always asked. And that might be because, from the town, this comes out of the development office. And as I'm working now in the development office with Gary, and I'm learning more, and I'm definitely taking more of a development role. I mean, it might be we ask the town for more than the village, because of that. I mean,
yeah, I mean,
that would be up to the board, but.
a lot of people, and I think some of them are having to be select board members, think that it's two separate tax-paying groups, and it isn't. We're 100% of one, and so anyway, that's the only issue that I have.
But they have budgeted for their coming year at 10. Is that
They did,
correct?
yes.
As I recall.
Those
The
numbers,
new
yes.
numbers, yeah.
So
I
we
just
thank
need to
you
take-
for your consideration. I'm not gonna vote tonight. I'll just.
Right, it'll be part of our
Appreciate
general
your discussion.
budget.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah.
I know we're early, so.
And that's okay, because it's
That's all right.
before. we
Yeah.
get there, yeah. Any other questions, gentlemen?
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Would you
time.
all like the report?
Yeah, you do, that'd be great, so we
Okay.
can peruse it at leisure. Thank you for waiting for us to get through the water.
Yeah.
Budget first, thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yes, thank you. Number 3 on the agenda is to update funding options. First, there's information on the low-income household water assistance program. I asked that Scott include this because it is out there.
Right, we have been working with folks on this, and so this is sort of the continuation of the previous program that the state was offering. And at this point, I don't know how long these are gonna continue.
Yeah.
But there are opportunities, and there are some folks who've taken advantage of it, so we do have information. I think Pam's well aware. She also makes sure that it's out in the hallway. And, we have reference to this to people. We'll put some more information on the website as well. But it does give people an opportunity with, a state program to basically catch up to their current charges on their water and wastewater.
And anyone who is eligible for LIHEAP already, seasonal fuel, SNAP, and TANF could be eligible for this and kind of apply. We don't know what the deadline is, like you
Right.
said.
State has just kept it sort of rolling, so
But if you are eligible for those programs, you would most likely qualify for this one as well.
definitely.
The next thing on here is the municipal energy resilience program.
So this is one of Deb's pet projects, is to try to find alternate energy sources for municipally owned buildings, and she does remind me periodically of that goal. So the state has jumped into this with some state support, and there is roughly $45 million available statewide. So we are going to participate in Wyndham Regional on this and look at what opportunities might present themselves, whether it's solar on this building, solar arrays at our waste or water facilities, at our garage facilities, or other alternative types of opportunities so that we can drive down some of our utility costs. So the good news is there is going to be, and Wyndham Regional is going to be running that aspect of the program. They haven't put together yet how they're going to engage community. So I just want to give you guys that basic information so you can see that, you know, I've been in touch with Margot, so she's aware that we're interested in participating. So we will make sure that we're in the program.
So this is both for energy generation as well as energy savings through weatherization.
All sorts of options, right? They really haven't given us the full range of what might be eligible. So I'm, just for example, I'm holding off on the windows in this building until I know if that can in fact qualify, because we do need to do some window replacement in this building for sure, as well as a host of other things.
And this will also impact the town as well. Town-owned buildings, village-owned buildings.
Any municipally owned
Yeah.
structure. So we're gonna look at, you know, our police fire building, we're gonna look at, you know, both of our utility, infrastructure, and see what we can come up with.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see Margot's the director.
Yeah, it's good.
The resident secretary.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, like I said, as they build this program, I'll definitely keep the board in the loop. And, you know, the good news is, some of these projects are worth up to $500,000.
Yeah.
So, for example, we're gonna work with them on the roofing membrane material for this roof, and hopefully if that would qualify, that would offset a huge amount of expense just in this building, just to get that roof replaced, which would be a tremendous benefit.
So this would cover the roofing portion or the substrate, the insulation?
I think it would, and again, depends on how the program is set up, but if you can show our value, right,
Yeah.
I think that's where we're gonna be able to qualify.
For the whole assembly?
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
So I'm kind of excited by that, so,
that'd be great.
yeah, got our fingers crossed. And with the work we're already doing in the strengthening of the existing roof structure, it'll be able to support the additional weight of a new membrane, as well as the snow loads that accompany that as well, so.
I was just thinking, what about the roof we're looking to replace at the water building? I don't know if that could be considered, it's village owned.
We can take the
I
The
think
north
that's a
end.
shingle roof. I'll have to look at.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
Because I don't think there'll be any efficiency.
Oh,
savings in that.
improvement by the replacement. Okay.
But we're also hoping that,
Yeah.
you know, we talked about the heat recapture. When we get into the wastewater systems, we'll start talking about more detail and stuff we might be able to do.
Right.
But this could also help us with some of that as well. And, you know, so,
Well,
and
then we
again,
should start looking into it, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
See what they'll cover.
absolutely. So,
Anything further on this? Looks like a great opportunity. See what comes of it.
like I said, Deb does remind me, so I won't forget.
you go girl.
Oh, no, she's consistent. I don't mean it as, I don't mean it as a joke. I mean, it's
Listen,
seriously.
if you knew the amount of emails that I receive every day, and I'm going, okay, which one do I want to look at right now? It's like, oh, there's some stuff I sent it up to Gary, and there's some stuff I sent it up to
Right.
Scott, and there's some stuff I sent it. It's like,
So, I do realize that it's a priority, so.
I know it's nagging.
No, it's a good reminder. And that program is actually pretty exciting.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
We're on, let's see, number 5, updated depot bridge designs, and here we have some.
So I just wanted to share this with the board, because obviously it's a major impact to our downtown and to something we're getting close now on some of the design elements. So I wanted the board to see just some of the final details that are coming forward. I think the ones that are probably the most impactful at this point is, you know, we had a long conversation about whether or not we're gonna galvanize or paint, and I think we're going to galvanize, at least I hope, just because of the long-term expense of having to repaint, but that's still to be determined.
Right.
Some options around the station, because we have to do some updates, based on, once we're done with the bridge construction and we're sort of changing some of the access of the current parking, being sensitive to, as much as we can, trying to replace the existing parking so we don't lose parking, because we all, we get into these conversations and it gets, people are very sensitive to making sure we maintain and preserve the parking. It looks at this point that we're in pretty good shape with that. The Canal Street discussions are really probably the next largest discussion that has to be finalized, just from the standpoint of aesthetics and how things would look. The potential to have some green space there at the lower end of Canal Street, because at that point, with the new bridge design and new access, there'll be buried utilities, so there'll be a different view in that area, and an opportunity maybe to do something there along the canal itself. So we're still discussing how that might work. But again, there's a parking aspect to that, and people I know are very, very sensitive to that as well. And then the other thing was that truck apron at Canal and Depot, because it's a mountable curb. It'll be a design feature, but it'll give the turning radius capabilities for larger trucks, and made sense, for what we're trying to do with reopening some of the opportunities on the island. Then things like the stormwater treatment, good for, obviously for the watershed, good, long-term for, helping us to keep our stormwater runoff, so it's not polluting or contributing to any of the problems downstream. So I think the next steps, we have to make some decisions by March to go back to the engineers to finalize, and then the next thing that will probably impact the boards that we'll probably talk about will be the construction schedule for utility relocation on Canal Street. That'll be the first real phase of the project. More than likely, that could start sometime in 2024. Don't know exactly when. It depends on when they finalize and get approval for the design, and then ultimately then put that first phase out to bid. And then that construction goes on all the way up through 27 by the time the old bridge gets demoed.
Wow.
So there will be a period of disruption, to say the least, and we'll work with the businesses, we'll work with our residents, and it'll be wonderful when it's done, and it'll be painful while it's going.
What's going on?
So,
Yeah, no doubt.
it's one of those, just have to deal.
That prepares us for the off alignment bridge.
Yes.
Yes.
That just prepares you then for the Bellows Bridge,
Yes, that's right.
which is coming along in 28.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's.
So the decade of bridges is upon
It's
you.
all within the same short distance of each other.
I have a question about the parallel versus the diagonal parking.
Yes.
Whether there's any discussion about whether there's any data on how that configuration either affects flow of traffic, speed rates, or accidents.
Well, they designed sight distances into both, so there was really a minimal impact in terms of that traffic.
But as far as
But you get more parking with the diagonal closer to the station as opposed to the parallel.
yeah, I'm just thinking that when you're parallel parked, cars tend to zip in and out of the
Right.
spaces differently than backing into traffic, and it looks like
People,
the 11
yeah, people don't
spaces.
seem to like to wait while you're parallel parking.
Right,
No.
which is gonna affect traffic flow, but then the diagonal spaces they have just on the east side.
The
of
one side.
Right.
Right.
And so then that's affecting flow really in only one direction, I would think. Just wondering
It
whether
does,
there's.
but then that radius is changed somewhat so that you have a better sight distance as the traffic is coming, approaching. So they do take that into consideration.
So is there a preference so far based on?
I think the diagonal, because it added more parking.
Yeah.
Closer
Yeah.
to the station. I think that was the ultimate
So we're
decision.
still gonna lose 4 spaces. That's the
Right now, the way it's designed, it'll be a net loss of 4, but I think we have some ways to maybe even make that up, so we're hopeful. So,
And trucks are always a problem even in that lot. where they hang,
Yeah,
where they hang out, stick out.
yeah.
And,
You got one nice.
Pardon me?
Your truck, the size of your truck
the length, yeah.
creates a problem for us people that have
With smaller
smaller
vehicles,
vehicles.
Well,
take it out.
next when you have the fireworks, I was gonna bring the 10-wheeler down there and have the barbecue in the back of the Dukes, invite you over for a tardy and.
But not now, because you're inside of your truck. Well, I mean, we still have problems with that in the square. The spaces aren't as wide as, you know, that they used to be, and larger vehicles, especially like trucks, with the bulked out edges, really take up a lot of space, give you very little room to open a door.
Or those Victorian garages that just are too small to get up.
Oh, yeah, you couldn't possibly, they're too low. Let's see, we've already covered the financials, so
Yes.
we're the financials for the water. And so we're on to reviewing agenda items for the next meeting, which cover which part of the budget now?
So wastewater, the next one,
Yeah,
and then I think after that, we'll have, ARPA and just, police and fire at the next one, after that one. And then a final, I think, after that, to sort of see where we are
okay, so,
by the end of March.
so when you say the next one, you mean the one after that meeting, the one in March?
Wastewater stands by itself, right?
Right, okay.
So we'll do that one on the next one.
Okay. Is there anything else, anyone else has that they would like to see on the agenda for the next meeting? I'm assuming we'll get the financials for the wastewater. That
Yes.
Yep. All right, here's nothing, move on to the joint board agenda is until, that says January
January
30th.
31.
That's not right, clearly that's not right.
It is May. Yeah.
They,
It's May, yeah.
There were a couple items that were carryovers that
Oh,
yeah, from our last conversation, but nothing at the moment.
okay, review and approve orders, bills and warrants.
so moved. Seconded.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? No, okay, good. That, is there other business? Scott,
No, that's it.
wait.
I got a list.
Okay, everybody settle back, eat some popcorn and.
Won't take long. First thing, I was just gonna ask the manager, how's the Bellows Falls garage coming? Have you heard anything?
Nothing updated, and I was surprised because I thought they would have been a little farther along. They still, don't have all the windows in. So I can imagine they're drywalling or doing inside finish work. So I don't see how they're gonna make their late spring.
Isn't it March? Was it end of
End of
March?
March, wasn't it?
They were saying
April?
March or April.
Yeah.
I don't see
Looks
them
like
making
more
that.
like May.
I think it'd be later.
Yeah, now, I'm not sure if they had, well, personnel was a problem, having enough people to get that far. Yeah, maybe,
Looks like we got some good warm weather coming though.
I know.
so,
They've been putting in windows, but they're still not
Opportunity.
completely sealed up
Right.
yet. Which
Yeah.
I'm surprised at this point that they weren't completely.
I did go down to the Whetstone in Brattleboro for dinner one evening, and there was a lot of talk, or some talk of their bridge
oh,
project
God, yeah,
having problem finding help.
yeah,
So
Everywhere.
so is it, everybody's already getting geared up for
And
spring.
speaking of bridges, we're gonna have a 6-hour detour through town
Jesus.
tomorrow.
right,
On
That's
91. I forgot to mention that earlier. Thank you for reminding me.
That's right,
Oh, really?
yeah, I got the email about that too.
Yeah, they have to do some additional work, so they're gonna be putting everybody on the one side and working on the northbound side, so that for 6 hours, so it's from 9 to 3
The
tomorrow.
south side will be closed, something.
So
So
we'll
they'll
have
be
traffic
coming
through town
North,
Well, they,
through town or
that
south?
happened today, right?
tomorrow.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
the interstate closure today didn't direct people.
it's, the one that they had was for tomorrow, the 15th,
Yeah.
so.
The interstate was closed today, but to sit, exit.
Yes, exit 5 and exit 6. I got a call yesterday that
Closed.
today they're closed, yeah.
Like totally?
For that 6 hours, yeah.
I was just gonna re-mention the audit. It was nice to hear that with the help of the staff and everything, getting that
A lot of
on.
work.
That was a good,
Our
compared
office.
to where we've been.
Oh,
It's a good report.
definitely.
Our office done a lot of work and it was really appreciated because it's made life, simpler. So we're not perfect, but we're getting better.
Mhm.
So it's all good.
So I think,
Trending in a good direction.
Scott and Alyssa, and everybody that's been involved. We owe a debt of gratitude for that because we've come a long way.
Yeah, definitely.
No, it's good.
I'd also like to thank the Women's Club on behalf of the fire and police departments for their Valentine's gifts they delivered today. To be there when.
Cookies are always appreciated.
Oh, what, where, fire department?
And police department.
Yeah.
And police department?
I'm sure they did maybe other places.
Oh,
too.
probably.
They stop
Oh,
by
did
here. They do a nice job. They
In your
give
project, yeah.
little cookies out.
That's
It's nice.
And the last thing I have is the banner for letting people know about
Yeah.
the meeting. It's right there behind us.
Oh, okay, I'll take a look at it, it's probably in crap
And
shape, I don't know.
It won't work unless we do
Well,
some,
I don't care, I'll order another one.
we gotta, so I don't know what you wanna do about it or.
Right, yeah, I know you brought
Sean
my,
about ordering a new one.
I brought it so you can look at it.
So he's aware. I
it's
think we're
been,
gonna-
it's a what, 3 years old, 4 years old, it was pre-2020, I think? I
It's older
think,
than
I
that.
can't remember,
Right,
so,
but it was specific for that 1 year
yeah, it was, yeah.
and it's all printed and you can't
Well, you
easily
can, you
change it.
can go over it, there are ways to do that, but if we're gonna, if we order another one,
Take a look at it and see
they're like
what they do.
100 and something bucks, and that's all I say, pay for it.
Well, anyway, I got it here.
Yeah.
And, whatever we're gonna do, I mean, we don't wanna wait till the 11th hour to.
No, and Scott just said that,
Right.
spoke with Sean about getting it made, so because it needs to go up, early May, end of April, early May, we'll have enough
Yeah.
exposure, yeah.
Okay.
Anything else?
No,
Okay. Jigs,
A question about is it Barker Street house, the burned house down
Uh-huh.
there?
Yes.
Wasn't that gonna be done?
It was a winter project. It was done in conjunction with Brockway Mills, and I don't have a schedule yet from the demo contractor, so I'll follow up with that.
So it hasn't
should be
been
done.
done, no.
It should be done in the next 4 to 6 weeks,
soon, okay.
because they were gonna do it before spring, so it looks like we might get another spring, the way we're going there.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but I will follow up on that. Yep.
Thank you.
Good. So yes, thank you for remembering the banner, although it's probably just gonna be something that might not be, unfortunately, not ecologically disposed of because it's vinyl, but I mean, it's definitely worth having something we can alter letters on.
Right.
well, I was gonna say, if we buy a new one, it should be something that we can just use every year.
They have ones you can Velcro.
Yeah, and that's it, Velcroing letters and stuff like that on there, so
Unless
that
we
you can change
could
it.
somehow modify this one to do that, I don't know.
I don't know. I haven't seen it since I originally gave it to Sean, and it got put up, so that was it. Okay. Do I have anything? Just reminders that, about dog licensing and the dog license contest and all that stuff that's on, that's a town issue, but this village has a lot of dogs and a lot of unregistered dogs. And there'll be a vaccination clinic in April, and you should consider getting your dog down to get that done so you can get your license at the same time, one-stop shop. I believe it's at the fire station, I think that's where they usually do it, or at the rec, can't remember, but it's on the website. I think that's it. We have some unseasonably warm weather. It's like spring already. Unfortunately, that also means more cold, but I appreciate every warm day and nice sunny day with 30 to 40 degrees. It's interesting this year. That's it for me.
Deb?
Huh? What?
The rabies clinic is March 18th at the fire station.
March, not April, March 18th, fire station. Thank you. Sorry. April 1 is the due date, right? Yeah. Okay. So March 18th at the fire station.
10:30 to noon.
Thank you. Good. All right, and you're all set? And,
Also,
all right then. All we need is no proceeding for executive session this evening. We need a motion to adjourn. And a second? All right. All those in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And happy Valentine's Day.